Hello, my friends. Thank you so much for coming to join me for this last minute live stream on this Saturday, November 18th. Last night, I was with my brother and my sister. We have an annual tradition every year of going to see the Dave Matthews Band at the Madison Square Garden. And it's always the week before Thanksgiving. And so that's what I was doing last night. And it was really, really, really fun. That's our tradition. We do that every year before Thanksgiving. And so much fun. Such a great show. For those of you who are into music, he had Trombone Shorty show up and play a large portion of the show with him. And also Susan Tedeschi and Derek Trucks joined the stage and played with the band. So that was really cool. Susan Tedeschi sang. They played The Wait, which is an old song by the band. And he played a lot of covers last night. It was really cool. Played a Pearl Jam song called Breathe. Played some Beatles. It was really, really a great show. If you have never seen Dave Matthews, I encourage you to do so because you can see 3 shows 3 nights in a row and they will never be the same. Very much like the Grateful Dead never played the same set list 3 nights in a row or really ever. It was always mixed up. So it highly recommend. He's there again tonight at Madison Square Garden. So if you have that opportunity, you just might bump into me tonight. Oh, it was really funny too, because when I went to the concessions, I went to get, some drinks and a popcorn. And the girl who was ringing me up looked at me and she said, Melanie? And I said, yeah. And she said, oh, hi, I'm Rebecca. We did an audition together like 4 years ago. I thought it was hilarious. I was like, does she know me from my YouTube channel? But I totally remembered her. So, hey, Rebecca, shout out to you. Sometimes when you go in for commercial auditions, they pair you up with other people so they can see how you interact. Neither one of us booked that commercial, but we still are friends. So shout out to Rebecca, who recognized me last night at Madison Square Garden in the sea of how many tens of thousands of people from an audition that we did pre-COVID, because after COVID, everything shut down. There were no more in-person auditions, and there really are not many more in-person auditions. Yeah, I love that song too. While the Lights Are, it's my favorite Pearl Jam song is Breathe. I like to sing that one. Lost count of how many times I heard Dark Star as part of my, oh my God, Dark Star. I hate to say this. I may make, I don't know. There's not a lot of deadheads in this chat, but when Dark Star would come on, I would usually go to the ladies' room. That was one of my bathrooms. So that and Little Red Rooster. I'd be like, all right, I can take a break now. Okay, you guys, I have fallen into the GILGO Beach LISK rabbit hole. The rabbit hole. I know a lot of you guys are new to following me from the Maya case, and I thank you so much for being here. So you might not be as familiar with the LISK Long Island serial killer. I'm going to say it in the first 5 minutes. Maybe they'll debunk me or whatever. Case as my Long Island friends are. And it's really, really interesting. So there is a man. His name is Rex Heuermann. And he has been arrested and indicted for 3 of the 4 GILGO Beach killings. These women were all escorts. They all went missing between 2007 and 2010. Their bodies were discovered in 2010, all along the same strip of Ocean Parkway on the north side of Ocean Parkway in the Bramble. All 4 of them were wrapped in duck burlap or camouflage burlap. All 4 of them, apparently something new that I've learned, were bound at the ankles. And Rex Heuermann has been indicted finally 13 years later. There was a lot of problems with this case, including corruption in the Suffolk County PD, but we don't need to go into all of that now. You can look at some of my older live streams, including the live streams I've done on James Burke, who was the Suffolk County police chief. At the time, he didn't let the FBI in. He had his own issues and proclivities. And for those reasons and many, many more, these GILGO 4 unalivings were not solved, or an arrest was not made until just July of this year, 2023. So this man, Rex Heuermann, has been indicted in 3 of the 4 GILGO 4. I will show you a picture of him because if you haven't seen it, you might recognize him once I share this with you. So this is Rex Heuermann. He's currently sitting in the Suffolk County Jail. Yes, you're right, Jason. He is an avid duck hunter and would certainly use that kind of burlap. Correct. He also, when they searched his home in Massapequa Park, they found, give me the correct count, you guys, 297 guns, I think, in his vault, or what they are not saying is not a vault, in his cellar. Many of them were unregistered, and now Nassau County has taken that part of the case, and I think they are going to also indict him on some gun charges as well. But what I'm going to do here today, because, you know, we don't like to spew conspiracy theories, is we're going to talk facts, okay? So I'm going to give you the facts, and then you can draw your own conclusions. Because once I started getting into all of these cold cases on Long Island from the 80s, we have always theorized on this channel that we don't think that someone who is a serial killer would just start, right, when they're in their 40s. These bodies were found in 2010. He was born in 1963. Yeah, he would have been 47 years old or 44 years old when Maureen Brainerd Barnes, who was the first of the GILGO 4, went missing. And we don't want to forget that this is always, always, always about the victims. So let me just show a picture of the GILGO 4. These 4 women were the 4 that were found in December of 2010 while the police were out looking with a cadaver dog for Shannon Gilbert, who was not found. Her remains were not found until December 2011. This is a very, very complicated case, and it is quite a tangled web that we weave once we start getting into this. I know. Yeah, try not to use that word. I know. They don't like anything that I do, so we're going to have to see. In fact, I forgot I need to do something to the video, so just give me a second. This is Maureen Brainerd Barnes, Melissa Barthelemy, Megan Waterman, and Amber Lynn Costello. These are the 4 women who were found in December of 2010. And we are waiting for an indictment to come down on Maureen Brainerd Barnes. They have not. The grand jury is still ongoing, according to Ray Tierney, the Suffolk County District Attorney who is handling these cases and will be trying these cases himself against Michael Brown, who is the attorney for Rex Heuermann. And we've seen Michael Brown speak, and we know that he is going to be, in my opinion, a formidable opponent. You can disagree with me if you like. In the comments, just be respectful. Come for me in the comments. But I think Michael Brown is going to be quite an opponent. I've seen him speak, and I think he's an excellent attorney. He is an 18B attorney, which is an attorney that is appointed. He's appointed to represent Heuermann in this case, but in Suffolk County, legal aid does not take on M cases. Thank you, Team Brittany. I'm going to say M cases. So they appoint them to private attorneys to handle. And Michael Brown isn't, from what I can tell, an excellent attorney. So what do we know? Once I fell into this 1980s rabbit hole, there was no getting out. And there are a lot of commonalities that I found. And there is something to be said about the clusters of 4. And we've talked about this before when I did a stream on the Eastbound Strangler. Those were 4 women who were found in a drainage ditch behind a seedy motel in 2006 with their heads all facing east. There is something to be said about clusters of 4. And if anybody has any information on the possible significance of the number 4, certainly throw it in, and you can help me with this theory, because I'm curious. I'm curious about that. I'm curious about why the number 4. Why are there clusters of 4? Are they related to Rex? Could they be related to Rex? I don't know. I'm going to let you decide. But what I am going to do is tell you some facts about some missing girls and some unalived girls that goes all the way back to 1981. 1981 was the year that our friend Rex Heuermann graduated from high school. I'm usually not big on graphics, but I made this little presentation because I was trying to keep my own facts straight. And I couldn't. And so it was easier for me to do it visually and to try and get it into like a PowerPoint situation so that we could take a look at this and so that you can come back and review this later also, because there is so much to this that I want to try and keep it straight. Rex Heuermann graduated from Berner High School in Massapequa, New York in 1981. In the summer of 1981 and from March 5th, 1982 to October 24th, 1984, he was an employee at Jones Beach State Park. For those of you who do not live here on Long Island, Jones Beach is down Ocean Parkway from GILGO Beach. It's not very far. It is where Jones Beach Amphitheater is, which is a huge concert venue. And if you go from Jones Beach down Ocean Parkway eastbound, you come across the Jones Beach Amphitheater on the bay side or the north side of Ocean Parkway. And along the south side of Ocean Parkway, there are some more beaches. There are Cedar Beach. You guys refresh my recollection on the other beaches that you come along. But on Ocean Parkway is also GILGO Beach, where the GILGO 4 were found. On the north side, where the GILGO 4 were found, is all bramble, and it is the bay side. So there is a bay, and there is some marshland and some swampiness that goes on. But on the south side is all ocean. So he was an employee at Jones Beach. Very, very interesting facts. Now, I'm going to show you a cluster of 4. But the first case that I want to look at with you is the case of TINA FOGLIA, because a lot of people feel like TINA FOGLIA was perhaps one of his very, very early victims. TINA FOGLIA was 19 years old. She was from Brentwood, which is in Suffolk County, not far from GILGO Beach. She was last seen on February 1st of 1982. Any of you from Long Island may remember the name of the place where she was last seen at. It was Hammerheads. It was a nightclub in West Islip on the South Shore where Twisted Sister used to play every week for $1. And some other like big 80s hair bands used to play there. TINA FOGLIA was known to hitchhike, which is another commonality that I have found in a lot of these cases, is the hitchhiking. Could it be related? I don't know. So if Rex graduated high school in 1981, he would have been about 18 years old. 1982, he would have been about 19 years old. I think he attended college at New York Institute of Technology, which was in Old Westbury. Yeah, Twisted Sister. Yep. Twisted Sister, the beginning of the 80s hair bands, right? So this was 1981, 1982. Sarah Adams. Hi, Sarah. I can tell you for sure, as a former mortician, if the body isn't buried towards the west, that's abnormal. Huh. I don't know why that is. Okay, but I can't believe you were a former mortician. That is so interesting to me. When I was very young, I used to want to be a medical examiner like Quincy. Remember that TV show Quincy? Because I thought it was so cool to try and like solve the mysteries of how people died. And also, if you were a medical examiner, you couldn't unalive anyone because they were already dead. So it wasn't that risky. Thought it was pretty cool. So I'm going to play for you a clip about TINA FOGLIA, because Mary Murphy, who is from Pix 11 in New York, is still covering the LISK case. Every time I go to court, Mary Murphy is right there. And she's been on this case. She's been a reporter, I want to say at least since the 90s, maybe even longer than that. So this video was done by Mary Murphy somewhere around 2017 or 2018 when they were still trying to solve this cold case of TINA FOGLIA. Let's take a listen.
We were raised in the Bronx and we went to Catholic school. Then my mother moved out to Long Island.
Suffolk County does not hold good memories for Amy Foglia Gagliardi. The body parts of her 19-year-old sister Tina were found on the Sagticos Parkway in early February 1982.
She was placed in 3 separate bags right up against the tree line.
When we returned to the scene where Tina Foglia's body parts were found on the shoulder of the northbound Sagticos Parkway, very close to the southern state, it was a rainy day, very much like the day more than 35 years ago when the gruesome discovery was made.
New York State DOT workers, they were picking up garbage.
The DOT worker suspected it was a body because of the shape of the bags, and then upon closer examination, he saw hair.
Tina Foglia loved the music scene at Hammerheads in nearby West Islip, the club that launched bands like Twisted Sister. Foglia was last seen leaving the club on her own. She was known to hitchhike. The killer had sexually assaulted her, leaving a footprint in the mud, a tire track, and male DNA on her body.
We haven't had any hits with the direct matching.
No direct hits on a national database called CODIS, but Simon Ocampo of the state police is now hopeful a test called familial searching will find Foglia's killer. It looks at Y chromosomes that are common among brothers, fathers, uncles, and sons. Relatives of the unknown killer could be in the database.
The suspect may have had children, brothers who've had sons.
New York State has approved the test for use this fall. Police have also checked out the closest street to the Sagticos, the intersection of Privet Place and Gardner Drive. When Pix 11 first reported this mystery, we noted the proximity to Robert Moses Causeway, which leads to GILGO and Oak Beaches. That's where victims of the Long Island serial killer were first discovered in 2010.
Is there any chance that Tina Foglia could have been an early victim of the GILGO Beach killer, Oak Beach?
There's always the chance. It's not something.
You're right, Skoda. It is. I think it was Skoda who said this. It's Foglia. It's Foglia, obviously. Mary Murphy is obviously not Italian, but it is Tina Foglia. The G is silent. You are correct.
That we would rule out.
But the state police say GILGO is not an active avenue of their investigation. They interviewed Tina's ex-boyfriend and other men she was friendly with. We found one of Tina's friends.
Yes. I don't want to talk about her. You know, I have nightmares of her. I don't want to open up a nightmare, and I don't want to be next.
Pix 11 was struck by Amy Foglia's recollection that her sister wrote to her about a specific guy shortly before she was killed.
She said she met a doctor. She said he drove a really nice car.
The sister also showed police a diamond ring both she and Tina wore. Tina's ring was missing when her remains were found, but police don't think robbery was a motive.
I believe it's solvable. We just need that one little break.
I'm Mary Murphy, Pix 11 News.
So, what say you, my friends? Interesting to say the least, right? That was in 2017 before Rex obviously was arrested, because he wasn't arrested until just July of this year. But after Tina Foglia was found, and tell me if any of you remember this, if you're around. Doctor? Yeah, Ruby, doctor. I know. Interesting, right? We remember Dr. Peter Hackett, who was involved in the Oak Beach stuff with Shannon Gilbert. I don't know. It's a tangled web we weave here on Long Island. But do you guys remember, those of you who live here, the 4 teenage girls who went missing in the Lynbrook area in the 80s? We're going to get into that in a second. But here's the last slide on Tina Foglia. Her dismembered body was found on February 3rd, 1982. That was 2 days after she went missing, in 3 garbage bags along the shoulder of the northbound Sagticos Parkway near the westbound Southern State Interchange in Bayshore, or North Bayshore. Male DNA was found at the scene. Wondering if they have tested that DNA against the DNA that they have currently found on the pizza crust and the cheek swab that they did of the suspect, Rex Heuermann. That would be very interesting to know. They also had a footprint that they found in the mud at that scene. And this goes all the way back to 1982. So at the time, the suspect would have been 19, 18. Her clothing was never recovered. The garbage bags were also found very neatly bound with some sort of rope or cord. I find it interesting. That's not the right tab. Hold on one second. Now, in 1984, there were a string of cases on the South Shore, not far from Massapequa Park, where 4 teenage girls went missing in the span of 1 year. There are so many cases during this time period that I'm just going to focus on. I'm going to focus on the clusters of 4 that I found, because there are others in between this time with other commonalities that are also clusters of 4. But this cluster of 4 has to do with the teenage girls that were missing from the Oceanside, Lynbrook area that all had a connection to Hot Skates, which was a roller rink in Lynbrook. If anybody remembers that roller rink, let me know. I was a Laces girl myself because I grew up on the North Shore. So North Shore, we went to Laces, and on the South Shore, we went to, I think you guys went to Hot Skates. All right, so the first girl to go missing of this cluster of 4, her name I don't know why this thing doesn't want to cooperate with me right now. Stop. Try to be fancy with all my graphics and I don't know, something just happens and it doesn't really work out, but we're getting there. Okay. Okay. Her name is Laura Parker. She was 14 years old. She was from Lindenhurst, which also is not too far from Massapequa Park, and she went missing on May 23rd of 1984. She was the first of 14 girls in the area to go missing in a 1-year time period. Laura's remains were found 4 months later on September 10th of 1984, rolled up in a rug in a ditch in the woods near Lindenhurst High School. What I found very interesting about this, once I started doing a deeper dive into all of these cases, is that there are many other cases, not specifically in this cluster of 4, that were also found rolled up either in a carpet or an army blanket, or in some sort of burlap. This article says, because Laura Parker had been missing for 4 months, she was only 14 years old. The skeletal remains of what appeared to be a woman were found yesterday, partially covered by a rug in a wooded area here, Suffolk County Police said. The remains were found by 3 teenage boys who were planning to build a fort in a ditch in the woods near Monroe Avenue and Frank Street in Lindenhurst. The area near Lindenhurst High School and across the street from some apartments and a cemetery, remember the cemetery, because that is also going to play into a lot of the things that I've found, is a hangout for local teenagers, said Detective Lieutenant Robert Dunn, commanding officer of the Suffolk Homicide Squad. He said the body had been there 3 to 5 months. One of the boys who did not want to be identified said that he and his friends picked up the old rug and at first saw only a pink running shoe. Then he said they saw a skull and realized there was a body there. Dunn said that a 14-year-old Lindenhurst High School girl has been missing since May, but he could not say whether the body was hers. Dunn said her parents were notified of the discovery. Dunn said that there would be no positive identification until dental records could be examined from the tattered clothing, a jacket and jeans. He said the body appeared to be female. He could not give any indication of the size of the person. Another interesting thing that I found is the sneaker, the shoe. We've heard a lot about a significant piece of clothing missing from the GILGO 4. We don't know what that is. We have theorized that it could be a shoe. Same with the eastbound triangular cases that were in 2006 in Atlantic City. Missing shoes. These are all in a very, very near, these were all very, very close to each other. And this was a very scary time in the 80s when all of these girls went missing around the same time. So that was Laura Parker. Next to go missing was Kelly Morrissey, 15 years old, of Lynbrook. She went missing on June 12th of 1984. She was last seen walking on Merrick Avenue in Lynbrook, and she was never seen again. So she was never recovered. She has still to this day has not been found. Walking, hitchhiking. There were a lot of theories about the Kelly Morrissey case. And what is very interesting about the Kelly Morrissey case is that she was friends with another one of these 4 girls who went missing during that time, THERESA FUSCO. They both hung out at Hot Skates. So the connections here are kind of too obvious to ignore. And we're certainly not going to ignore them. Here's an old article from what looks like Newsday about Kelly Morrissey. Nassau police are searching for a 15-year-old girl who was reported missing more than 3 weeks ago when she failed to return home after meeting with a friend at Merrick Road and Earl Avenue here. There are other accounts that she had gone to buy cigarettes at a nearby gas station, a Shell station, where she met her friend Gail. Officials of the Nassau Police Juvenile Aid Bureau say Kelly Morrissey was last seen by her friend at about 9:30 p.m. on June 12th. Their meeting place was about half a mile from the missing girl's home. Since then, members of her family have been at a loss to explain the teenager's disappearance. Her stepfather, Paul Olmsted, said that she was in trouble neither at home nor at Lynbrook High School, where she was a sophomore. In fact, her family said she had ironed a fresh set of clothes for school the next day. Kelly, a part-time worker at a nearby factory, did not pick up her paycheck there the week she was reported missing, police said. The family lives at 58 Fenimore Street, about a half a mile from where Kelly and her friend, whom police did not identify, met. The girl is described as 5'6" tall, about 130 pounds, with blonde hair and brown hazel eyes. When last seen, she was wearing jeans, a sleeveless pink sweatshirt, a gold chain with a charm, and earrings. Interesting. Then in 2010, this article on the right, there was a renewed interest in this case because there was something like a Remember Hot Skates page on Facebook. And I think police saw some postings about Kelly Morrissey and they started reinvestigating it. But to this day, Kelly Morrissey has never been found. The next in the cluster of 4 that I found is THERESA FUSCO. She was 16 years old from Lynbrook. She went missing on November 10th of 1984 after she left her job at Hot Skates in Lynbrook. She was a part-time employee at the snack bar at Hot Skates. She got in a fight, apparently, with an assistant manager. She was fired from that job. She made a phone call and she left Hot Skates and that's when she went missing. Obviously, police became concerned, as did the community, since she was the second girl from Lynbrook to go missing. Kelly Morrissey and THERESA FUSCO. Nassau County Police are searching for a 16-year-old Lynbrook girl, friend of another village teenager who has been missing since June, who was last seen Saturday after she was fired from a part-time job at a roller skating rink. THERESA FUSCO of 6 Windsor Place was last seen about 10 p.m. as she left the roller skating rink in tears. She had worked one night a week at the Hot Skates snack bar, police said. The rink on Merrick Road in Lynbrook is about 4 blocks from her home. Again, she was walking. Was she hitchhiking? The brown-haired, blue-eyed teenager was described as 5 foot 3 inches tall and weighing 104 pounds. She was last seen wearing blue denim jacket and blue striped jeans. Conchetta Napoli, Teresa's mother, said her daughter was a friend of Kelly Morrissey, 15, of 98 Fenmore Street, Lynbrook. Morrissey has been missing since June 10th, when she was last seen walking westbound on Earl Avenue in the village. Yesterday, officials with the 5th Precinct Juvenile Aid Bureau said there had been no new information on Kelly's disappearance. After Kelly disappeared in June, Teresa was quite frightened, her mother said yesterday. She always would phone me to tell me of her plans. That's why I don't think she's willingly on her own somewhere. She said her daughter had no problems at home or in school. The girl was a junior at East Rockaway High School. She had left for work Saturday in good spirits and had planned to stay overnight with a friend who lived a block away from the family home, she said. We checked out all of her friends. They've been forming posses and looking for her every day. Detective George Darty of the Missing Persons Squad said police did not know if the 2 disappearances were connected. It's hard to tell. There might be no connection at all, Darty said. He said there had been no indication of foul play. What's interesting is, I think some of these cases initially were not taken very seriously because they thought Kelly Morrissey might be a runaway. And I think back in the 80s, and you former law enforcement friends of mine who may have been on the job in the 80s, were missing teenage girls often looked at as perhaps runaways. Very interesting. Very interesting. But THERESA FUSCO was found. Curiously, right across the street from Hot Skates. And 3 men were indicted, convicted in her unaliving, and 18 years later were freed because there was no match on the DNA. Swiper, keep swiping. I swipe on my mouse pad here and it kicks me out. I'm back. Yes, Ruby, I hate how they keep reporting no trouble at school or home. Like if they were in trouble, that would make it okay. Yeah, it's almost like they kind of looked at these cases, in my opinion, a lot of them, like they were runaways. Like they may have been in trouble, they may have been running away, they may have had drug issues, there's all of these like sort of reasons that they were looking for to sort of not want to either investigate it, take it seriously, look at it right away. I'm not sure, but it's a little bit disturbing, in my opinion. Yes, Callie Dime. I believe law enforcement's sometimes too quick to label a teenager or runner, especially back in the 80s. But if you think about it, like these girls were 14, 15, 16. Yes, Betty, poor guys who spent 18 years in jail for a crime they did not commit. And you know what was so bizarre about the 3 men that they indicted is that when they found Kelly Morrissey's diary, all 3 of those men were mentioned in Kelly Morrissey's diary. In fact, Kelly Morrissey had dated at least 2 of those men that were indicted and convicted of the THERESA FUSCO killing. And it has been said that they were very, very quick to arrest people. And the Nassau County Police was under a lot of pressure to solve that crime of THERESA FUSCO because that 3 girls had already gone missing in the area. And that's just bizarre to me that these guys were all mentioned in Kelly Morrissey's diary. Kelly Morrissey was never found again. The THERESA FUSCO may not have even been such great friends at the time of the disappearance with THERESA FUSCO. But I'm going to give you the names of these men who eventually sued and did recover from the county millions of dollars for their prosecution. Here's where THERESA FUSCO was found. It's an old article from Newsday. The nude body of a teenage girl was found yesterday, half buried beneath leaves and a wooden pallet in a wooded area near the Long Island Railroad tracks here, Nassau County Police said. It was across from Hot Skates in Lynbrook, and there are other news reports that say it was in a cemetery. So it's a little unclear where they found her. Inspector Kenneth Carey said there were bruises on the torso. An autopsy would have to be performed to determine the cause of death, he said. No weapon was found nearby. Police said the girl had been dead at least a couple of weeks. They said they hoped to make a positive identification today, but when questioned, they said that the girl fit the description of THERESA FUSCO, 16 of 6 Windsor Place. She was last seen 9:30 p.m. on Saturday, November 10th, when she left her part-time job in tears after being fired at a Lynbrook roller skating rink. That was Hot Skates, where she worked 1 night a week at the snack bar. Carey said 2 youths discovered the body in an area north of the railroad tracks between Rockland Avenue and Park Place about 4:15 p.m. The area is about a block away from the roller rink, Hot Skates on Merrick Road, and 5 blocks from the missing girl's home. At the family home, Gardner said, her godfather, "We knew she wouldn't run away, but this was something we didn't want to anticipate. A missing poster bearing Miss Fusco's photo was on the front door." Another Lynbrook girl, a friend of Miss Fusco, has been missing since June 10th. She is Kelly Morrissey, 15, of 98 Fenimore Street, who was last seen walking in the village. What is interesting is that THERESA FUSCO was found not far from where the torso of Peaches was found at Hempstead Lake Park nearby. Very interesting. The next girl to go missing from the area, all in the same not calendar year, but the same year. Jacqueline Martarella, 19, of Oceanside. She went missing on March 26th of 1985 while walking to her job at Burger King on Long Beach Road in Oceanside. It was a walk that would have taken her only about 15 minutes. She left from her friend's house to go to work. She never arrived for her 8 p.m. shift. Again, walking. Hitchhiking? I don't know. Jackie's body was found on April 22nd, 1985 on the Woodmere Country Club golf course off the 17th fairway in a swampy marsh obscured by 10-foot high reeds. It was a Monday. Most golf courses for country clubs on Long Island are closed on Mondays. And there was an elderly man out there looking for golf balls, and he stumbled upon her body. Golf course is important because when I do my next episode on the next cluster of 4, there's also a body found on a golf course, another golf course on Long Island. And it seems to me that these coincidences are a little too coincidental. Occam's razor? An old article about Jackie Martarella says that she was 4 feet 11 inches tall. She weighed 95 pounds with light brown hair and brown eyes. Again, quoted in this article. At this point, not enough information has been developed to indicate whether the girl is a runaway or met with foul play, said Sergeant Pete Matusa of the Police Information Bureau. This case is still open. They used dogs in the search. And then when they found her, another article, looks like a Newsday article, says that her body was found nude nearly a month ago. It was discovered in a thick strand of marsh grass in a secluded area of the Woodmere Country Club golf course, Nassau police said. Marks on Jacqueline Martarella's neck indicated she had been strangled. Medical examiner's office said she was believed to have been killed around the time she was reported missing on March 26th. The body may have been dumped in the 7-foot tall grass near the 17th hole of the golf course, about 20 to 30 feet from the green. Oh, I thought it was the fairway. Now they're saying the green. My bad. Nassau homicide detective Lieutenant Sean Spillane said, the victim's badly decomposed body was identified through dental records, he said. Neither clothes nor jewelry were found at the scene, and no tire tracks were observed in the area, which is far from either commercial traffic or any neighborhood, Spillane said. Nassau County Medical Examiner Leslie Lukash said marks on Martarella's neck indicated the cause of death was ligature strangulation. Lukash said the time of death was consistent with the time she was reported missing on March 26th. The detective said that the tall grass concealed the body so completely that the corpse could not be seen either from the fairway or from the green itself, and was finally discovered at about 10 a.m. yesterday by Michael Casella, 69, of Lawrence, who was searching for stray golf balls and stumbled upon the corpse. Interesting. Oh, here's what Spillane says. Spillane is the detective. He says she was on her way from a friend's house on East Lexington Avenue in Oceanside last month to her job at Burger King on Long Beach Road when someone picked her up. He said she encountered her murderer there. I don't know why he's saying someone picked her up. In a car? Hitchhiking? I don't know. There was no other evidence of that I read about. But again, it's another connection that's just a little too similar to not think about, at least. And here's an article showing photos of the 3 side by side. They didn't include Laura Parker in this, but this is the disappearance of Kelly Morrissey and the murders of THERESA FUSCO and Jacqueline Martarella. There's pictures of them side by side. It was something that the community was very, very nervous about, and nobody's ever been caught. Here's a picture of Hot Skates. If anybody remembers Hot Skates, let me know. 3 of those 4 girls hung out at Hot Skates. Roller skating was very big back then. I don't know, do they even have any roller rinks anymore? I don't know. What say you, my friends? More like she was taken. Yeah. This is all very interesting. Yeah, Betty, I don't know. How does he know that? I don't know. Kelly Dime, while she was off the green and already decomposing and nobody noticed her. They said she was like in a marsh in a swampy area. Must have not been a very busy golf course. Well, it was a country club. It's a very high-end country club. I guess nobody hit a ball over there, so they didn't have any reason to go in there. You know, I don't know. Hey, Karen. So appreciate the deep dive you're doing into these cases. I've said from the beginning that the LISK case would go far back. I do hope some of these cases will be being checked out. Yeah, I mean, you would think that there's some DNA, right? Hi, Jason. Rex was born 63 or 64, so an early SK would get going around this time. That's what I'm thinking. You graduate from high school, you're in college. I don't know. But there are, once I started doing the deep dive into this, I realized how many cold cases there are of young girls and escorts that went missing in the 80s. The next cluster that I'm going to do for you in the next episode is going to be all escorts, all in the 80s, all in the Hempstead area. So I find this to be, makes my little spidey senses go up. Hi, Ann. GILGO Beach, perfect victims remain site with strong daily tidal flows on the bay side of the highway strip, plus periodic hurricane storms from the Atlantic Ocean side. Everything washed away sooner or later. Yeah. And or, you know, they were placed, the GILGO 4 anyway, in a place where he could go back and drive by and visit. Oh, and by the way, it came out yesterday that Asa Ellerup, Rex Heuermann's soon-to-be ex-wife, is being paid $1 million by Peacock to film that documentary. We saw the camera crew following her into his court appearance the other day. I don't know if they were allowed in the courtroom, actually, because I was not there that day in court. But they definitely were following her into the courthouse as she got out of a silver Mercedes. They're paying her $1 million. It's interesting. Hi, Kathy. Without Rodney Harrison, I feel none of this will be looked into. Curious also. Rodney Harrison, who is the Suffolk County Police Commissioner, has resigned. And, you know, I think we kind of knew that was coming because every time a new county exec is elected, they're allowed to pick their own police commissioner. But Rodney Harrison has been so on top of this case since he came here in January of 2022, same time that Ray Tierney came into office, the Suffolk County DA. And they had Heuermann in their sights within 7 weeks of them looking at the old case file from 2010, which, you know, had a description of the perpetrator, last person to see Amber Costello alive, as being an ogre between 6'4", 6'6", bushy hair, driving a green Chevy Avalanche, all of those things, which we now find out that he had. And somebody said to me in the chat the other day, I think he's more like 6'6", 6'8". He looks way taller than 6'6". To which I said, yeah, I think you're right. And even then, like, it would have been maybe even easier to find him because he's still living in that same exact house in Massapequa Park that he was living in at the time that all of these girls were unalived. At least the GILGO 4, he grew up in that house and he bought that house from his mother. I think in 1990, we went over that the other day, that he married his first wife in 1991. And they lived in New Jersey. So this is all very interesting. And there's a lot. But I thought serial killers would leave clues. Well, there's DNA. There's DNA. The thing is that they couldn't match the DNA to anybody in CODIS. So if Rex had never been arrested, his DNA wouldn't be in CODIS. And it wouldn't be in CODIS until they arrested him. I don't even think they can put it in CODIS, in fact, until he's until there's a conviction. But they do have his DNA in the New York State database right now. Anybody correct me if I'm wrong. And Tina Foglia in 1982 was dismembered, as were the Manorville butcher victims, Jessica Taylor, Valerie Mack, Peaches. It's very interesting. Hi, Judy. She said she was broke. Lawyer fees, taxes. Now she won't have to beg for money. It was the car hers or Rex's? May have been her attorney's car, to be honest, because her attorney showed up with her in court. So it may have been her attorney's car. Hello, Pee Wee Moore. I tried to warn people that the only reason Asa filed for divorce was to freeze assets so her hubby would qualify for her 18B attorney and keep the money from the victims' families, her attorney and his attorney, BFF. The divorce was interesting because she did file for divorce within 5 days of his arrest, or within a week of his arrest, right? And he signed the house over to her about a month ago for no money. So the house is now solely in her name. If you believe what John Ray says, who I find to be credible, he's been on this case since 2010, working for no money, by the way, pro bono. John Ray's theory is that this was all to protect the assets in the case of any judgments or civil suits that could arise out of these cases. And that is a strategy. Now, remember, any communications they had during the course of their marriage are privileged by the spousal privilege. So she can't be forced to testify about any communications that happened during the course of the marriage. She has been, it has been reported that she has visited him in court one time where she spoke with him for an hour. Whether the privilege extends to during the divorce pendency and before the divorce is final, I'll look into that. But, you know, all jailhouse phone calls are recorded. Everybody knows that. So there's a recording of that jailhouse phone call to his wife. And also, I'm sure, do they also record the visits, you guys? I don't know. Hey, Sherry, you bet John Ray is credible and he knows all the police corruption. When I said your name, it thought I said that other name, and then my computer started talking to me, asking me what question I wanted to ask it. He does. And I think when Rodney Harrison stood with him during that press conference where he showed us the affidavits of those two new witnesses that came forward, and he has two other witnesses who have not given affidavits yet. All of that was very curious information. It puts Karen Vergata in the Heuermann house with Asa there around Valentine's Day of 1996, which is exactly when Karen Vergata went missing. And it also gives us a nexus between Rex and Shannon Gilbert on two different occasions, because there was a taxi driver who was also a banker who gave an affidavit about two run-ins with Heuermann. One of them involved Shannon. So this is all very, very interesting. And I've said this from the beginning, and people have said, that's ridiculous. There couldn't just be, there has to be more than one serial killer on Long Island. And it can't be the same guy because some of these people were dismembered and some of them were whole. And, you know, listen, we had Joel Rifkin, right? Isn't that enough? Joel Rifkin and the Long Island serial. How many more do we need on Long Island? I think it's probably one person. I think a lot of these are connected, at least all of the ones on GILGO Beach that have still not been solved. I mean, that dumping grounds, I've showed you a map of it. These bodies were found very, very, very close together, all along the same strip on Ocean Parkway. And yes, they did really suffer. I know, Marshall. It makes me sick too. It makes me really sick too. And the fact that these are all still cold, and there's so many more, you guys, we haven't even scratched the surface on this. This is just 5 that we talked about today. And it's always about the victims, but this is really, really crazy. And the fact that these 3 men were arrested, tried, and convicted for THERESA FUSCO, and then some 18 years later are released from prison because of the DNA. It's crazy. And if you dig deeper into the THERESA FUSCO case, which I didn't have time to do with you today, there was a man who reported his car missing, and then the car was found. And then in the car were found THERESA FUSCO's jeans and THERESA FUSCO's a little felt pouch and some rope that was used to bind THERESA FUSCO. And then all of that evidence went missing. And the windshield was smashed and the license plates had been changed. And it's very, very curious. It's a rabbit hole that if you want to fall into it with me, because it's Really, really frightening. Hi, TJ. He had 400 guns, I heard, and I think 9 were unregistered. I think it's more than 9 that were unregistered. And I can't remember the exact number, but I did cover that on the initial press conference. There were a lot more, I think, than 4 that were unregistered. If anyone knows the exact number, let me know. I think there was something like 297 guns, and I think maybe 44 of them were not registered. Some of them may have been antiques. Maybe they weren't required to be registered. So I'm not really sure. Chopper, this freaks me out. Yeah, me too. Lady Prudence, no wonder she got a makeover with the $1 million. Yeah, no, I think they had hair and makeup people. Hi, ATS News. Good to see you. Yes, agree. Which part? That they're all related? I know. And we don't need more than one. No, Mika, we don't. We don't need more than one. And nobody's talking about all these cold cases from the 80s. And the fact that they were just thought of as, runaways and Tina Foglia. And people have brought Tina Foglia to my attention, Foglia, for a long time. And I never really looked into it. And then when I did, and I found that she was dismembered and her parts were tied up neatly in a bunch of black trash bags, which, remember, Karen Vergata's legs were found in a black trash bag that washed up in Fire Island in 1996. It seems very, very mysterious. Here's the article that I have in my, I want to show you on Tina Foglia, where they traced her route. This is an old article. Looks like Newsday, because remember Newsday always had the same font? And Steve Wick, I think, was a Newsday reporter back in the, he may still be. Slain woman's route traced by Steve Wick, Brentwood. When last seen by her family, Tina Foglia was leaving home to spend the evening at a West Islip rock nightclub. She had a friend in the band she wanted to see, her father said, but because the family did not have a car for her to use, she had to thumb a ride there and back. That was Saturday night, Joseph Foglia said yesterday. And on Tuesday or Wednesday, the family reported to police that she was missing. Oh, Sunday night, it says. Sunday night. And then the family reported her Tuesday or Wednesday. Wednesday afternoon, state highway workers picking up trash along the Saginaw State Parkway in Brentwood found 3 plastic bags containing the dismembered body of Miss Foglia, 19 of 15 Lloyd Avenue. The body was identified Friday. Every parent will say their kid was the best, Joseph Foglia said, but she really was a good kid. It's a crazy world. Foglia, who's divorced and lives in the Bronx, said his daughter, who lived with her mother, brother, and sister in Brentwood, left home alone Sunday night and probably hitchhiked to Hammerheads, a rock nightclub where she knew someone in the band. He said he believed she left Hammerheads sometime around 3:30 a.m. Monday, quote, by herself as far as we know. I had to identify the body, Foglia said. I couldn't recognize her. I noticed small things. I wanted her to go to singing school. She had a fantastic voice. I can't think about this. Foglia said his daughter had dropped out of high school and was taking night classes for an equivalency diploma. Other family members would not comment. Michael Bodden, Suffolk's chief deputy medical examiner. You know who Michael Bodden is? Michael Bodden is very, very famous now. He's an expert witness, but he was at the time in 1982, Suffolk County's chief deputy medical examiner. Said yesterday that the cause of death was asphyxia by smothering. Her nose and mouth were covered or blocked. Quote, you don't get too many dismemberments in Suffolk County, Bodden, a former New York City medical examiner, said. Well, that didn't age well, did it? This was 1982. New York City gets a bunch of them. Almost always it's for the purpose of disposal of the body. As ghoulish as it sounds, it's difficult to carry a body out of an apartment building without being seen. Bodden declined to discuss specific aspects of the autopsy, as did members of the State Police Bureau of Criminal Investigation. A source familiar with the investigation said the method of dismemberment was an important aspect of investigation. The body was cut up more precisely than would be possible with an instrument such as a hatchet or axe, the source said. Kind of gives me Dexter vibes. What about you guys? Dexter vibes. Honey, 2800 says it definitely is a cover up. Malfangina, high question. Now that his wife has filed for divorce, could she be called to testify against RH? No. The spousal privilege applies. Either spouse can invoke it, and it applies to any communications during the marriage. So she cannot be forced to testify against him, and he can invoke the privilege, or she can invoke the privilege. Interesting. Ooh, Kimberly McGuire says like a doctor instrument. That's interesting. Ruby, oh my God, Ruby. Ruby says 1981, I was walking home at night, abducted, beaten, SA'd, threatened to kill me. Perp was caught. DA pled him to reduce charge and 5 years. Said no trial because jury would think my fault for walking alone into pretty. Oh my God. I cannot believe that happened to you. I'm so, so sorry. I can't even imagine the trauma that you are still facing, the severe PTSD that you are still facing from this. I don't know if this was here in New York or on Long Island, but I am so sorry that that happened to you. And I am so sorry that that's the way that you were treated. And that's the way that this case was treated and that perp was treated. And my heart bleeds for you. Wow. I'm sorry. Terry says, I was just thinking Dexter. Yeah. Roger. Hi, Roger. Roger, did you go to court the other day? Because I didn't go. I would have seen you there, though. Rex bragged about being so good at cutting wood, etc. Yep. Marshall, if I lived in a house, wouldn't have to dismember to transport to get rid of it versus appointment. Yes, getting body out, almost impossible. Yeah. And that's why we saw when they did do the search of the Massapequa Park home of Heuermann, they were taking out the plumbing. They were taking out the drains, because perhaps if there were any dismemberings that happened in that bathtub, they would need to, you can't, no matter how hard you clean, you cannot get rid of all of the forensic evidence and the blood. Baden testified in a case just ended yesterday and said his name. Yeah. Ruby, I still can't believe 5 years. That, by the way, that Timothy Thereder, the boy in the box case, he only got 5 years. And then 5 years probation. Oh, hi, Tim. I think I just answered this, but can she be forced to testify if she divorces him? No. Nope. Not as to anything that happened during the sanctity of the marriage. That's what the spousal privilege is all about, the sanctity of the marriage. Skoda says, I mean, an architect would have great precision, just saying. Rescue puppy, his dad had woodworking tools. Betty had saws. Oh, my. Oh, my, Betty says, or a good kitchen knife. Yeah. Brenda Nash says, sounds like Rex all over it. I'm still thinking about these 4 teenage girls that were 14 and 15 and 16 years old that were walking to their jobs blocks away from where they lived. Or THERESA FUSCO, who just left her job at Hot Skates and was picked up within blocks and found within blocks. And Laura Parker, who was found right a couple blocks away from where she went to high school. And, hitchhiking was a thing back then. Everybody did it. Everybody did it, right? Hi, Ariel. If she tells Peacock anything that happened during their marriage, that waives the privilege, right? Oh, sure. If she says it to a third party and they have video of her saying it, could it be admissible? I don't know. It's a great question. I don't think she's going to tell them anything. I think they're just following her around during the course of this whole entire thing to get a great story out of it for the $1 million that they are going to get from this. Speak Life Garden, you guys with the tongue twistery YouTube names. Speak Life Garden, Homestead, and Permaculture says, oh my gosh, I had a similar experience. Finally got brave and told the cops. Police told me if I took it to court, the attacker would blame me. I went home and cried. I'm so sorry. I am so, so sorry. Was this also in the 80s? Was this closer in time to now? Tiff says, who would get in a car with a giant man? Of course, he could have pointed a gun at them. Yeah. And we know, if we believe the 2 witnesses that John Ray has uncovered, there were 4 witnesses. I think at least 2 of them mentioned that he did have a gun. Betty says, if indicted, she'll talk She'll talk to be out with her $1 million. There is the Son of Sam laws, so people who are convicted of crimes or accused of crimes can't profit from their crimes, but their families can. Hi, Debbie's here. These don't fit RH's pattern. Does he have a pattern? He would have been very young at the time. He would have just graduated from high school. He liked, maybe as he got older, he evolved to using escorts. These were all young, defenseless teenage girls that were walking down the street. He would have been 19, 20, 21 at the time. I don't go by patterns so much as I go by, I don't know, all of these cold cases. I think that over time, serial killers can change their patterns, can change their MOs. I was interested in, and of course, come for me in the comments. I feel free to come for me in the comments. I have merch that says that too, if you want it. Respectfully. And thank you to my my mods who are amazing and police the chat. Oh, you never route trackers by Yara never did. No hitchhiking for me. I never did either, but I did know people who did. Did he have children then? No, he didn't have children. He would have been in his early 20s. He would have been just graduated from college, still working at Jones Beach. He would have, just graduated from high school, in college, New York Tech. Did he go to the roller rink? I don't know. That's a great question. I thought that too. Whether he found these girls at Hot Skates and that was his hangout. Roller rinks were a big place where teenagers used to hang out back then. And so I don't know. I do not know. Chopper, if he's been doing this since the 80s, why did he now slip up? Well, I don't think that he now slipped up. They had a description of him in 2010 in the case file. Nobody followed up on it. People theorized that it's because James Brooke was involved in the investigation. He threw the FBI out, wouldn't let him in. He had his own issues with escorts and drugs and, being a perhaps participant in some of these, quote, parties that were going on. There have been people that have come out with stories about it. So I don't know that he's slipped up as much as somebody finally made the connection to the description. And then they had them in their sights in early to mid 2022. They surveilled him for at least a year. And then he was arrested this July based upon the fact that he had burner phones. He was putting more minutes on burner phones. He was still in contact, I think, with escorts. And they got his DNA from the pizza crust. Always finish the crust, pizza. People, always finish the pizza crust. They connected his DNA to hair found on one of the GILGO 4. His wife's hair was found on 3 of the GILGO 4 because they had done a dumpster dive into their garbage. They had a whole bunch of DNA from the family, and they were able to connect Asa's hair to 3 of the GILGO 4, his hair to 1, and then they were able to solidify that when they got his cheek swab after his arrest based on emotion. Jason says, yeah, he didn't slip up. If anybody slipped up, it was the police. I tend to agree with you. Mama Sasa's pizza crust is the best. Kathy, no. Did they ever get a cheek swab from Asa? No. In fact, I have heard that she was never even questioned, or that she didn't give an interview, or the police have not had her talk. All that we've seen is media knocking on their door, and she's been outside saying, go away. I've been through enough. Leave me alone. And police reporting that she said that she was shocked by this. And now she's saying that the reason she's going to be at every court appearance from here on out is because she wants to hear the evidence for herself. Some say it's because she's being paid $1 million to do a documentary. You be the judge of that. Hey, Ed, when was he at NYIT? Because I was there too. Well, if he graduated from high school at 81, he would have been there fall. If he went to school right away, he would have been there fall of 1981. Maybe graduated in 85. don't know. Root trackers by Yara. True, Jason Smith. The detectives did not do their job, perhaps on purpose. We don't know. We do not know. Judy Gillespie, hello. I don't know about enough about Asa's involvement to be a judge. Most of what I know is from me. I don't either. I don't either. But it depends on whether or not you believe these new witnesses that have come out. Hi, Bridget. Is it Bowden or Baden? It's Baden. Michael Baden. Wasn't he also involved in the Bridget Harrison in the OJ case? I mean, he's been involved in a lot of very, very, very high profile cases. Pee-wee. Other women and dancers have spoken about seeing Rex and Asa together at strip clubs. She would pretend to be his associate, not his wife. She may not have known about the killings, but she knew a lot. It remains to be seen what she knew. If she winds up being somehow indicted, arrested, or whatever, Peacock definitely got their money's worth. I'll tell you that. Because this could go down a whole different avenue that they did not expect, or maybe they did expect, and that's why they gave her the money. Very interesting. I go with my gut too. Mama Styles, I go with my gut, and my gut says she knew something, maybe not the extent, but swingers keep secrets. What's another one? Yeah. Interesting. Interesting. Hi, New Hampshire woman. These young girls are too similar to the GILGO 4. Yeah. Yeah. There are more. There are more, and I will get to them. There are some more also commonalities. Hi, Brenda. Nash, Ace's lawyer won't let her talk. Asa. If he does all the talking, he gets paid for it. Great Church, thank you for becoming a new member of my community, Melanie. Melanie's Little Cupcakes. The reason for that is that my logo says, I am not a cupcake, because this pink sign over here that you can't read says, you cannot make everyone happy. You are not a cupcake. I have opinions. I'm going to share them. I am a New York State attorney with 30 years experience in state and federal court. I'm also a mother of 5 and a working actor. And so you get all of those opinions from me, and I'm not afraid to share them. So if you don't agree with what I say, you don't have to watch, or you can certainly disagree with me respectfully in the comments, because we try and keep it classy here and we appreciate all points of view. And I am going to come back and do at least 1 or 2 more episodes on this, because there are so many more, and I'm just right now focusing on Long Island. I haven't even gotten into the New Bedford highway killings, the Route 29 stalker, which is the route that Rex would take to visit his mother in Virginia. And we looked the other day at a side-by-side of a police sketch next to a picture of Rex, and they are eerily similar. And there are so many others, but there are so many on Long Island. There's the golf course connection. There's the fact that Tina Foglia lived 3 blocks away from another victim who has a cold case. That so many of these people knew each other. They all lived in the same area. And we're going to see that there are a lot more commonalities. And let's hope that we can get some of these cold cases solved, and that people will come forward, and that we can try and make a difference here in this community, because that's what we're doing. We're not afraid to talk about the tough topics. I'm not spewing misinformation. Everything I told you today is a fact. You can oh, please hit the like button for our wonderful Melanie. Thank you, Hope for All, and thank you for being a channel member. Hopefully we can make a difference. Everything here is fact-based. We have said everything that is facts. And oh, look at this. Gay Lynn, thank you so much for gifting 5 memberships. Thank you so much. If you want to opt into gifts, there's a way that you can do that by hitting the 3 dots, and you can opt into gifted memberships. And then when someone like Galen, who is so sweet to do this, gifts memberships, they are randomly given out to people who are participating in the chat. Hi, Jason. The New Bedford stuff is my neck of the woods. Okay, good. Maybe you could start looking into that for me, because that is another rabbit hole that I have not been able to get into yet. Honey, this case goes deep. There are so many tangled threads, and higher ups in law enforcement were hiding things to cover up their misdeeds. And I am so sad that Rodney Harrison is leaving, because I really feel like he started tugging on that thread. And I really thought it was starting to unravel. And once he's gone, I don't know who's going to replace him, but I hope whoever does replace him is going to be as tenuous about this case that we on Long Island have been so personally involved in since 1996, when Karen Vergata's legs were found on Fire Island. And now we are seeing that this could go back to the 80s with all of these other cases that may or may not be connected. You be the judge. Thank you so much to my moderators who are amazing. Thanks for coming in last minute. I decided to do this last minute. And to all of my channel members for being part of Melanie's Little Cupcakes, to all of my viewers, my replay viewers, and everyone who supports this channel by watching, sharing, liking the video. Hit the subscribe button. It doesn't cost anything to subscribe. And make sure you hit the bell so you get all notifications when I go live, because sometimes, like today, it's last minute. Thank you so much for your support. Remember, be cool, be kind, be classy. It is so not hard to do. That's what we try and do here. And that's the community that we are creating. And I love each and every one of you. And I see you. So thank you. Thank you so much. And I will see you again real soon, probably tomorrow. Peace.